the biggest story arguably in the world is the tragedy that's going on the West Coast in California, specifically around Los Angeles and the Pacific Palisades with wildfires burning through tens of thousands of acres, hundreds of different wildfires. And so far as of now, the state of California reporting about 12,300 structures and more have been destroyed. We know that people from Greater West Bloomfield, they may snowbird out in California. Many people from our community have since moved out to California, maybe people's kids. So as this emergency is ongoing and as there's a variety of different calls from local fire departments out in the vicinity of these fires, what's your message for people related to Greater West Bloomfield that may be around those fires or related to those fires in terms of their need to heed the warnings being provided by their local departments?
This is a complex discussion, Tyler. You know, the wildland-urban interface, the WUI as it's referred to in the industry, is complex. You know, as people want to live and build into nature, it comes with inherent risks. And this is something that the fire service has discussed for decades and understand the potential and the risk, but you have to balance that within communities and where people want to live. So that is the challenge for government officials. To your point of your question, when the incident starts to unfold like this and warnings and evacuations are being posted, it's so important to follow those. There's methods, behind the plan that is being enacted by those local officials, those emergency managers. And while it may not always make sense to the resident, it may not always make sense to the person being asked to evacuate, there's purpose behind it. And it's best to follow through with those. And where we can all help is supporting those that are displaced. And so if that's providing a space here in Michigan for those to come to and find some peace while the devastation and the fires are brought under control, that's the part that we can play. And then following through with a reputable service organizations that are supporting those that are in greatest need in the impacted areas.
And we know here in Greater West Bloomfield, when a fire emergency occurs, especially when it's on maybe a bit of a larger scale for an individual community, we have the benefit of local partnerships such as the Oakway Collective that helps support one community to another. And we know that's also something that's been very much being mirrored in California with local fire departments, not only in surrounding areas from Los Angeles, but even other nations with firefighters coming in from Mexico and other nations, Canada and the like, to support these fires. When you have an emergency of any larger scale, but especially one of this scale, how important does that communication between departments beforehand and especially during, and then having that partnership to fight something that's this devastating, how important is that to those fire departments and those individual firefighters as well?
Those mutual aid agreements, as you highlighted perfectly there, Tyler, are essential to creating the best possible outcome. Having a conversation with a colleague yesterday, I found it, when they asked, what are your thoughts on this? I don't know that many people can have well-informed thoughts on the scale of what is happening in California, about the interface, the terrain, the resource allocations that are so massive and needed in so many places simultaneously that anyone could have predicted, let alone planned for such a massive scaled response. But the best outcomes, which may not always align with what everybody wants, but what are achievable, are bringing in those resources, like you said, from other countries, from surrounding areas. Because at this, well into this incident now, you're into what are called operational periods. These firefighters, these emergency responders at all different levels aren't able to operate for 36, hours, 72 hours straight. So you are now into cycling resources through, you're into rest periods, again, food and water and all of the support that goes with those teams that are, on the front line is complex. And so there's a whole nother team of people that are coordinating those efforts. And a big part of that are those mutual aid agreements that you spoke of and pre-planning that.
And Chief, we know that you travel the nation speaking to other police chiefs and having these open dialogues, not just in Michigan, but across the U.S. as our public safety leaders look into these sorts of issues and look into other ways to advance firefighting and paramedic care and so much more for our local fire departments across the nation. Do you have any message for your friends and your colleagues out in California who are fighting these fires at this moment from their friends here in the West Bloomfield Fire Department?
Well, to know that we, and this is difficult because, the kind of cliche thing is that we're supportive and all that. And I think that goes without saying. I think that there is a camaraderie, a bond that goes across state lines for the job that first responders and fire and law enforcement and EMS, that we stand with empathy and understanding of the difficult job that they have before them. We would, I think, love to do more, but there are logistics and technicalities and strategies. These are fortunate things that, while we have wildland fires here in Michigan, they are not to the scale that you have in a California. So we do send our support in the sense of the mission that they're trying to accomplish, but also with an understanding that there is a long road ahead. And really what they need are boots on the ground. And I believe that those things are coming, but those wins, Tyler, I don't think people can fully fathom how much wind plays a role in firefighting. And that applies here. You take a structure fire in West Bloomfield on lakefront where we have unobstructed wind coming across the water, and that firefight is drastically different than a fire in a subdivision that is heavily treed and the wind is not as much of a factor. So all of those things, they play a role, and California supplies many of those challenges based on terrain and climate and so on.
And we send our support also to those in California who are affected by these fires, certainly those first responders who are putting their lives on the line and are going above and beyond what is called of them in order to respond to this drastic emergency affecting one of the largest populated areas in the entire country. We continue to think of them, and we continue to be, as Chief Flynn said, so supportive of the work that they're doing, never really truly being able to understand just how much they are putting into that to sacrifice for the people of Los Angeles and the surrounding areas, and we thank them so much.